I'm Ruby Thompson. Today I'm 64 years old. My hair is almost gray, but I'm still standing here telling the world because I can't let my daughter die again in silence. The day we lowered Jasmine into the ground, it was raining in Chicago like the sky was crying. I wore the only black dress that still fit, standing next to my child's grave, my hands still shaking because I had just held hers for the last time. Tyrone, the son-in-law I once called son, stood next to me, his shoulders shaking as if he were crying. But when everyone left, when the last car pulled away from that Bronzeville cemetery, he handed me a piece of paper. His voice was cold, flat, like he was reading from a script. "Here's Jasmine's will, Mama Ruby. This house belongs to me now. You have 30 days to move out." I looked down at my daughter's signature, shaky, distorted, not her handwriting at all. I knew right away. I just smiled, nodded, took out my old handbag, put in a small Bible and a thick envelope that I had never shown to anyone. Then I walked out of my house, into that freezing rain, without looking back. Have you ever been stabbed in the back by someone in your own family? Have you ever been looked down upon just because people thought you were old, poor, or weak? I'm telling you today, not to brag or take revenge, but to let your children know, never stay silent when your family is torn apart. Let me take you back to that fateful day when everything started to crack. 3 months before Jasmine died, she called me. It was 2 inches the morning. Her voice was shaking. "Mama, something's wrong. I've been getting sick every night after dinner. Tyrone keeps making me this special tea, says it'll help with my headaches." I told her to come stay with me. She said she would. She promised. But every time I called after that, Tyrone answered, said Jasmine was sleeping, said she was fine, said I was worrying too much, like always. Then one Tuesday morning in February, my phone rang. It was Cook County Hospital. Jasmine was gone. Anaphylactic shock, they said. Severe allergic reaction to peanuts. But my baby had been allergic to peanuts since she was 6 years old. She carried an EpiPen everywhere. She checked every label, every ingredient, every single thing that went into her mouth. There was no way, no possible way she just accidentally ate peanuts. At the funeral, Tyrone played the devastated husband perfectly, tears streaming down his face, holding our grandbaby Marcus, who was only 9 years old and couldn't stop crying. The whole church felt his pain. Pastor Williams called him a pillar of strength. The choir sang "His Eye is on the Sparrow" while Tyrone clutched Jasmine's photo like it was his last breath. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. But then came that piece of paper, that forged will. Those 30 days to get out of the house my husband built with his own hands in 1987. The house where Jasmine took her first steps, where we celebrated every birthday, every Christmas, every Easter Sunday for 38 years. So I left. I packed 2 suitcases and moved into my sister friend Denise's place on King Drive. Denise had been my best friend since 1983. We met at Apostolic Church of God, both of us young mothers trying to figure out life on the South Side. She became a lawyer. I became a widow with a trust fund nobody knew about. The night I showed up at her door, soaking wet, she poured me tea and let me cry for 2 hours straight. Then she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Ruby, we're going to find out what really happened to Jasmine, and we're going to make sure that man never hurts another soul." The next morning, we called Jamal Rivers. Jamal used to be a detective with Chicago PD before he retired and started his own investigation firm. He owed me a favor, big one. I helped his mother keep her house back in 2008 when the banks were foreclosing on everyone. I showed him everything: the will, Jasmine's medical records, her phone records from the last 6 months. Jamal looked at me and said, "Mrs. Thompson, give me 3 weeks." He came back in 2. What he found made my blood run ice cold. Tyrone had a second family, a whole other life in Gary, Indiana, a girlfriend named Keisha, and a 6-year-old daughter named Amara. Jasmine had found out. She'd hired her own private investigator 4 months before she died. She'd filed for divorce. Quietly, secretly, she was going to take Marcus and leave. But Tyrone found out, and he couldn't let that happen. Because Jasmine wasn't just his wife, she was his meal ticket. She worked as a nurse at Rush University Medical Center, pulling in $80,000 a year while Tyrone bounced from job to job. What Jasmine didn't know was that Tyrone owed $120,000 to a drug dealer on the West Side. He'd been running packages, making bad bets, living way beyond his means. He needed Jasmine's money. He needed that house. He needed everything. So, he started poisoning her. Slowly, carefully, peanut oil mixed into her tea every single night. She'd get sick, go to the hospital. They'd stabilize her. She'd come home, and he'd do it again. Until that final Tuesday morning when her body just couldn't take it anymore. Jamal found the peanut oil bottle hidden in Tyrone's car. Still had traces in it. But here's what broke me wide open. Jamal found Jasmine's phone. Her real phone. The one Tyrone thought he'd destroyed. On it was a voice memo, recorded 2 days before she died. Her voice was weak, shaking but clear. "Mama, if you're hearing this, it means I'm gone. Tyrone's been poisoning me. I know it, I can feel it. I tried to leave, but he threatened to take Marcus. He said he'd make sure I never saw my son again. Mama, I'm so scared. I love you. Tell Marcus I love him. And Mama, there's a little girl, Tyrone's daughter. Her name is Amara. She's innocent in all this. Please, please take care of her." I played that recording in Denise's living room, and I screamed until my throat was raw. My baby knew. She knew she was dying, and she still tried to protect everyone else. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about justice anymore. This was war, and Tyrone had no idea who he was really fighting. See, what Tyrone never knew, what nobody in that neighborhood knew, was that my late husband Earl wasn't just a mechanic. Earl Thompson was a quiet genius. He bought property all over the South Side back in the 72nds and 82nds when nobody wanted it. Bronzeville, Chatham, Hyde Park, empty lots, burned-out buildings. He'd fix them up, rent them out, never sell. When he died in 2003, he left everything in a trust, the Thompson Family Legacy Trust. $18 million in real estate, all managed quietly by Denise's law firm. I lived simple on purpose, drove a 2004 Buick, shopped at Aldi, wore the same church dresses for years. Because Earl taught me, real wealth is silent, real power is invisible. And now it was time to show Tyrone exactly what invisible power looks like. Denise didn't waste a single day. The morning after I showed her that forged will, she filed an emergency motion to freeze all of Jasmine's assets, bank accounts, life insurance, everything. Tyrone called me screaming. Said I was trying to steal from my own grandson, Marcus. Said I was a bitter old woman who couldn't accept that Jasmine loved him more than me. I hung up on him. First time in my life I ever hung up on anybody. Then I called Jamal and said 5 words. Find everything, I don't care how. Jamal Rivers was the kind of man who could find a needle in a haystack and tell you what factory made it. He'd spent 22 years with Chicago PD, most of it in narcotics and homicide. He knew the streets, he knew the players, and he knew how to follow money. 2 weeks later, he showed up at Denise's house with a manila folder so thick it barely closed. We sat at her dining room table. Denise poured 3 glasses of sweet tea. Jamal opened that folder, and my whole world tilted sideways. "Mrs. Thompson," he said, his voice steady and cold, "your son-in-law is not who you think he is. First document, a lease agreement for an apartment in Gary, Indiana, Tyrone's name, co-signed by a woman named Keisha Walters. Second document, a birth certificate, Amara Denise Walters, born the 14th of March 2019, father's name, Tyrone Marcus Hayes. Jasmine had married Tyrone in 2015. Amara was born 4 years later. Do the math." I felt my hands start shaking. Denise reached over and held them still. "There's more," Jamal said quietly. He pulled out bank statements. Tyrone had been pulling cash from Jasmine's account for 3 years. 500 here, 1,000 there. Small enough she wouldn't notice right away. Total? almost $40,000. Gone. Then came the police reports. 3 incidents in Gary. Tyrone arrested for possession with intent to distribute. Charges dropped each time. Somebody was paying lawyers. Somebody with connections. He's running for a crew on the west side, Jamal said. Word on the street is he owes big. Real big. Around $120,000 to a dealer named Pip. People who owe Pip that kind of money don't usually live long enough to pay it back. I looked at Denise. Her jaw was set tight, her lawyer brain already working. And Jasmine? I asked. My voice came out like broken glass. Jamal pulled out the medical records. Every hospital visit for the last 6 months of Jasmine's life. July, August, September, October. Same symptoms every time. Nausea, vomiting, hives, difficulty breathing, elevated heart rate. The doctors kept saying allergic reaction, kept asking what she ate. Jasmine kept saying she didn't know. But here's what made my blood turn cold. Every single visit happened within 12 hours of Tyrone making her that special tea, the one he said would help with her migraines. Jamal slid across one more document. A receipt from a health food store in Inglewood. Peanut oil, organic, cold-pressed, purchased by Tyrone Hayes on July 3rd. 2 bottles. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't see anything except my baby's face the last time I saw her alive. She'd looked so tired, so small. She'd hugged me and whispered, "Mama, I don't feel safe anymore." And I told her she was just stressed. Told her to rest. Told her everything would be okay. I was wrong. Denise caught me before I hit the floor. She held me while I sobbed, while I screamed, while I cursed God and the devil and every force in the universe that let this happen to my child. When I finally stopped shaking, Jamal spoke again. "There's one more thing, Mrs. Thompson, and you need to hear it." He pulled out a phone, Jasmine's phone, not the iPhone Tyrone said was destroyed in the ambulance. A second phone, a burner. Jamal pressed play. Jasmine's voice filled that dining room. Weak, terrified, but unmistakably hers. "Mama, if you're hearing this, it means I'm gone. Tyrone's been poisoning me. I know it sounds crazy, but I know it. I can feel it. Every time I drink that tea he makes, I get sick. I checked the kitchen, found a bottle of peanut oil hidden behind the cleaning supplies. Mama, I've been allergic to peanuts my whole life. He knows that. He's killing me slowly, and I can't prove it." Her voice cracked. She was crying. "I tried to leave. Filed for divorce 3 weeks ago. But he found out. He threatened to take Marcus. Said he'd tell everyone I was an unfit mother, that I was mentally ill, that I was trying to keep his son from him. I'm scared, Mama. I'm so scared. I tried to get a restraining order, but I don't have enough proof. I'm recording this just in case. Just in case something happens." There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing, ragged and uneven. "And Mama, there's something else. Tyrone has a daughter. Her name is Amara. She's 6 years old, lives with her mother in Gary. I met her once. She's beautiful. Looks just like Marcus. She didn't ask to be part of this. If something happens to me, please don't let her suffer for her father's sins. Take care of her if you can. Tell her that somewhere out there, she had a stepmom who knew she existed and didn't hate her for it." Another pause. Then, barely a whisper, "I love you, Mama. I love Marcus. And I'm sorry I couldn't be strong enough to save myself. Tell my baby that his mama fought as hard as she could." The recording ended. The silence in that room was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. I looked at Denise, then at Jamal, then down at my hands, still shaking, still holding that cold glass of sweet tea, and I made a decision. "We take him down," I said. My voice didn't shake anymore. "We take him all the way down." Denise nodded. "We'll need to move fast. He's already filed to sell the house. Closing's in 3 weeks. "Let him try," I said. "That house doesn't belong to him. Never did." Jamal raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the south side streets I'd known my whole life. My husband Earl bought that house in 1979 for $42,000, paid it off in full by 1998. When he died in 2003, he put it in a trust, the Thompson Family Legacy Trust, along with 26 other properties all over the South Side. I turned back to face them. Bronzeville, Chatham, Hyde Park, Woodlawn, empty lots we turned into community gardens. Burned buildings we renovated into affordable housing. Earl worked 3 jobs for 30 years to build that portfolio. When he passed, it was worth about $8 million. Today? $18 million. Maybe more. Denise's eyes went wide. Ruby, why didn't you ever tell anyone? Because Earl taught me something important. He said real wealth is silent, real power is invisible. The moment people know you have money, they treat you different. They want something from you. They think you owe them. I sat back down. I kept living simple on purpose. Drove the same car, shopped at the same stores, wore the same dresses, went to the same church. Nobody knew, not even Jasmine. I was planning to tell her when she turned 40. Was going to make her a trustee. Let her help me decide what to do with it all. My voice broke, but I ran out of time. Jamal leaned forward. So the house Tyrone thinks he's selling doesn't belong to him. Doesn't belong to Jasmine's estate. It belongs to the trust. And I'm the sole trustee. That forged will is worthless. The house was never Jasmine's to give away in the first place. Denise started laughing, not a happy laugh, a fierce warrior laugh. Oh, Ruby, he has no idea what's coming for him. No, I said, he doesn't, but he's about to find out. That's when we built the plan. Denise would file a motion to invalidate the will and evict Tyrone from the property. Jamal would gather every piece of evidence: the peanut oil, the bank records, the police reports, the voice memo. And I would do something I hadn't done in 22 years. I would step out of the shadows. 3 days later, Tyrone made his first mistake. He went on the news. Fox 32 Chicago, morning segment. Families in crisis, when grief turns toxic. I was at Denise's house drinking coffee when her phone started buzzing. Text after text, all from church members. Ruby, turn on channel 32. Now. I grabbed the remote. There he was. Tyrone. Sitting in that fake concerned reporter's chair, wearing Jasmine's favorite tie, the burgundy one she bought him for their 5th anniversary. The host, a blonde woman with 2 white teeth, leaned forward with practiced sympathy. Tyrone, thank you for being brave enough to share your story. Tell us what's been happening since your wife Jasmine's tragic passing. Tyrone wiped his eyes. Actually wiped them, like he'd been crying. It's been the hardest time of my life, Susan. Losing Jasmine so suddenly, and now trying to raise our 9-year-old son Marcus alone while grieving. It's overwhelming. And your mother-in-law, Ruby Thompson, she's been making things difficult? Here's where he smiled. Just for a second. Just long enough for me to see the snake underneath. I don't want to speak ill of her. She's grieving too. But the truth is, she's been harassing me, claiming I forged my wife's will. Trying to take the house that Jasmine left to me and Marcus. She's even frozen our bank accounts. My son can't afford his school supplies because his own grandmother is playing power games. The reporter gasped. Actually gasped like this was some soap opera. That's terrible. And we've learned that Mrs. Thompson may actually be quite wealthy herself? Tyrone leaned in, his voice dropping to a stage whisper. Susan, I recently discovered that my mother-in-law has been hiding millions of dollars in real estate, properties all over the South Side. Meanwhile, she's been playing the poor church grandma routine for years, and now she wants to kick her own grandson out of his home because she can't stand that Jasmine chose me over her. I felt Denise's hand on my shoulder, squeezing, holding me in place. Don't. Not yet. The reporter shook her head sadly. What do you want people to know, Tyrone? I just want people to understand. I'm not the villain here. I'm a black man trying to raise his son and honor his wife's memory. And I'm being attacked by a bitter old woman who can't accept that her daughter grew up and made her own choices. The segment ended. Cut to commercial. Some ad for detergent and happy families. I stood up. My whole body was shaking, but not from fear, from rage. He just called me bitter, called me a liar, on television, in front of the whole city. Denise was already typing on her laptop. Good, let him. The higher he climbs, the harder he falls. When do we hit back? Not yet. We let him think he's winning. We let him get comfortable. Then we strike when he least expects it. She pulled up a calendar, marked a date 3 weeks out, November 8th. That's the court hearing for the will contest, Judge Patricia Brennan. She's tough, fair, doesn't tolerate nonsense. We present everything that day. All of it. The trust documents. The forensics on the will. Jamal's evidence. Jasmine's voice memo. What about the police? What about murder charges? Denise looked at me, her lawyer face fully on. Ruby, I need you to trust me. If we go to the police now with what we have, it's circumstantial. A good defense lawyer could tear it apart. But if we destroy him in civil court first, if we expose everything in front of a judge and the media, then the police have public pressure to investigate properly. They'll have no choice but to charge him. I wanted to argue, wanted to scream that we should lock him up right now. But Denise had been doing this for 30 years. She knew the game. Okay, we wait. But I want to do something. I can't just sit here while he's living in my house, sleeping in Jasmine's bed, lying to the whole city. Jamal spoke up from the doorway. I hadn't even heard him come in. Then let's visit the other family. We drove to Gary, Indiana, on a gray November morning. Jamal's black Tahoe cut through traffic on the Dan Ryan, then the Skyway, then into the streets of Gary where factories used to stand, and now only memories remained. The address was 1847 Monroe Street. A small house, yellow siding, chain-link fence, toys scattered in the front yard. A little girl was playing on the porch. 6 years old, maybe 7. Dark curls pulled into 2 puffs, wearing a pink jacket and light-up sneakers. She looked up when we pulled up, looked right at me through the car window. And I saw Jasmine. Saw her face, her eyes, the way she tilted her head when she was curious. My heart stopped. Jamal put the car in park. That's Amara, Tyrone's daughter. Before I could respond, the front door opened. A woman stepped out. Late 20s, pretty, tired-looking. Keisha Walters. She saw us, and her whole body tensed. Denise got out first, hands visible, lawyer voice on. Miss Walters, my name is Denise Hayes. I'm an attorney representing Ruby Thompson. We'd like to speak with you about Tyrone Hayes. Keisha crossed her arms. I don't have anything to say about Tyrone. Even if it could protect your daughter? That got her attention. She looked at Amara, then back at us. Amara, baby, go inside and watch cartoons. Mama needs to talk to these people. The little girl looked at me one more time, before disappearing into the house. Keisha stepped off the porch, walked to the fence, kept her distance. What do you want? I got out of the car, slowly. Let her see. I was just an old woman. Not a threat. My name is Ruby Thompson. Tyrone was married to my daughter Jasmine. She died 6 weeks ago. Keisha's face went pale. I'm sorry for your loss. Did you know he was married? She looked away. Not at first. Found out when Amara was 3. He said he was leaving her. Said they were separated. Said the divorce was coming through any day. But it never did. No. It never did. I took a step closer to the fence. Miss Walters, I need to ask you something important. Did Tyrone ever talk about money? About debt? She laughed. Bitter. Sharp. Money was all he talked about. Always needed more. Always had some scheme. Some deal that was going to make us rich. Did he ever mention owing someone? Someone dangerous? Keisha's eyes went wide. She knew. She absolutely knew. There was a man. Came to the house twice. Big guy. Gold teeth. Expensive car. He and Tyrone would talk outside. Tyrone would come back inside shaking, scared. Did you hear a name? Pip. He called him Pip. Jamal and Denise exchanged looks. Confirmation. When was the last time you saw Tyrone? Denise asked. 2 weeks ago. He brought money for Amara. $2,000 cash. Said it was back child support. Said things were going to get better now. Said he'd be able to take care of us properly. 2 weeks ago, right after he kicked me out of the house, right after he thought he was going to sell it and clear his debts. Miss Walters, I said, my voice soft. Did Tyrone ever mention my daughter Jasmine being sick? Keisha looked down at her shoes. He said she had health problems. Said she was in and out of the hospital. He seemed worried. Did he seem worried? Or did he seem relieved? She looked up at me, understanding dawning in her eyes. Oh God. Oh my God. You think he… I don't think. I know. Tears started rolling down Keisha's face. That little girl in there. She asks about her daddy all the time. Asks why he doesn't live with us. I keep telling her it's complicated. But if he did what you're saying… Your daughter is innocent, I said firmly. None of this is her fault. She didn't choose her father. And neither did you, really. He lied to you, just like he lied to all of us. Keisha wiped her face with her sleeve. What do you need from me? Denise stepped forward. We need you to testify. In court. About Tyrone's debts. About the man named Pip. About the timeline. About everything. Will Amara be safe? I'll make sure of it, I said, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. Keisha nodded slowly. Okay. I'll do it. For that little girl. For your daughter. For my daughter. For all of us. We drove back to Chicago in silence. But as we crossed back into the city limits, as the skyline came into view, I finally spoke. That little girl looks just like Jasmine did at that age. Denise reached over and squeezed my hand. I know, Ruby. I know. November 8th arrived like Judgment Day. The Cook County Courthouse on South California Avenue, room 304, Judge Patricia Brennan presiding. I wore the same black dress I'd worn to Jasmine's funeral. Denise said it sent a message, reminded everyone what this was really about. Tyrone walked in wearing a charcoal suit I'd never seen before. Expensive, new, probably bought with money from Jasmine's frozen accounts before we locked them down. He saw me sitting in the front row and smiled. Actually smiled, like he'd already won. His lawyer was a slick-looking man in his 40s, Martin Cross, known for getting guilty people off on technicalities. Tyrone must have borrowed more money to afford him. Judge Brennan entered. We all stood. She was a black woman in her 60s, silver hair pulled back tight, glasses perched on her nose. She'd been on the bench for 20 years and had a reputation for suffering no fools. Be seated. We're here for the matter of Hayes versus Thompson, contested will and property dispute. Counsel, opening statements. Martin Cross stood first, smooth, confident, voice like butter. Your Honor, this is a simple case of a grieving mother who cannot accept that her daughter made her own choices in life. Jasmine Hayes left a clear will, properly witnessed and notarized, leaving her home to her loving husband Tyrone. Mrs. Thompson, unable to accept this, has frozen accounts, made wild accusations, and is now attempting to make her own grandson homeless out of spite. He sat down, looked pleased with himself. Denise stood up, took her time, let the silence build. Your Honor, this is a case about murder disguised as grief, about fraud disguised as inheritance, and about a man who thought an old woman in a church dress wouldn't fight back. She placed a document on the clerk's desk. The property in question, 4,847 South King Drive, has never belonged to Jasmine Hayes. It has been held in the Thompson Family Legacy Trust since 2009, with Ruby Thompson as sole trustee. The will presented by Mr. Hayes is not only forged, it's meaningless. You cannot will away property you never owned. Tyrone's face went gray. Martin Cross jumped up. Your Honor, this is the first we're hearing of any trust. Because your client never asked, Denise cut in. He assumed wrong. Judge Brennan held up her hand. Mrs. Hayes, I'll hear your evidence. Proceed. For the next hour, Denise laid it out like pieces of a puzzle. The trust documents, notarized, Recorded. Ironclad. The forensic analysis of the will. Jasmine's signature traced over forged, not even a good forgery. The timeline. Every hospital visit, every illness, every time Tyrone made that tea. Jamal took the stand, testified about the peanut oil receipt, about the debt, about Pip and the West Side drug crew. Keisha Walters took the stand, shaking, scared, but she spoke. Told about Amara, about the money that suddenly appeared, about Tyrone's desperation in those final weeks. Martin Cross tried to rattle her. "Miss Walters, isn't it true you were having an affair with a married man?" "Yes," she said quietly. "And I'm ashamed of that. But that doesn't change what Tyrone did." Then Denise played the voice memo. The courtroom went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Jasmine's voice filled that space. Weak. Terrified. Dying. "Mama, if you're hearing this, it means I'm gone. Tyrone's been poisoning me." Every word, every accusation, every truth. When it ended, 3 people in the gallery were crying. The court reporter had stopped typing, her hands frozen over the keys. Judge Brennan removed her glasses, cleaned them slowly, put them back on. "Mr. Hayes, do you wish to testify on your own behalf?" Tyrone looked at his lawyer. Martin Cross whispered something urgent. Tyrone shook his head. "No, Your Honor. I decline." "Very well. I'm ready to rule." She didn't even take a recess. Didn't need time to think. The will presented by petitioner Tyrone Hayes is hereby declared fraudulent and void. The property at 4847 South King Drive is confirmed as belonging to the Thompson Family Legacy Trust. Mr. 47. Hayes is ordered to vacate the premises within 48 hours. Tyrone stood up. "Your Honor, that's my son's home." "Your son's home is wherever his legal guardian decides it should be. And given the evidence presented here today, I'm granting Mrs. Thompson emergency temporary custody of Marcus Hayes pending a full family court hearing." Tyrone exploded. "You can't do that. That's my boy. I can and I have." "Bailiff, if Mr. Hayes speaks out of turn again, remove him." Judge Brennan looked directly at me. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm also ordering the state's attorney to open a criminal investigation into the death of Jasmine Hayes. The evidence presented today suggests reasonable suspicion of homicide." She banged her gavel. "We're adjourned." The courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed for their phones. Tyrone's lawyer grabbed his arm, tried to pull him toward the exit. But Tyrone turned and looked at me. Really looked at me. And for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. "You set me up," he hissed. "You played me." I stood up, walked right up to him. Got close enough to smell his expensive cologne. "No, baby. You played yourself. You thought I was just some broke church grandma. You forgot that broke church grandmas raised the whole South Side. We survive things you couldn't even imagine. And we protect our own." I leaned in closer. "Jasmine told me everything before she died. Everything. You just didn't know she had time to talk." That was a lie. But I needed him to believe it. Needed him to know he'd lost completely. Security escorted him out. He was screaming about appeals, about rights, about injustice. But I knew the truth. It was over. 2 days later, the police arrested Tyrone at his mother's house on the West Side, charged him with first-degree murder, fraud, and forgery. The news cameras caught him in handcuffs, being walked to the squad car. That same night, I drove to Gary with Denise and Jamal. Keisha opened the door. Amara stood behind her, those big eyes watching carefully. "Hello, sweetheart," I said, kneeling down. "My name is Ruby. I was your stepmama Jasmine's mother. That makes me your grandma too, if you'll have me." Amara looked up at Keisha. Keisha nodded, tears streaming down her face. The little girl stepped forward, studied my face, touched my hand. "You look sad," she said softly. "I am sad, baby. I lost someone I loved very much, but I found you, and that makes the sad a little bit lighter." Amara smiled. Jasmine's smile, perfect and whole. "Can I call you Grandma Ruby?" I pulled her into my arms and cried into her hair. Yes, baby. Yes, you can. 3 months later, on a cold February morning, I stood in front of 4847 South King Drive. The brownstone had been completely renovated, fresh paint, new windows, a sign hanging above the door, Jasmine's House of Grace, free daycare, job training, and safe haven. In loving memory of Jasmine Marie Hayes. Inside, 12 children played in a bright, warm space. Their mothers attended GED classes in the back room, hot meals cooked in the kitchen where Jasmine and I used to bake cookies. Marcus lived with me now, adjusting, healing, seeing a therapist twice a week. Amara visited every weekend. She and Marcus were becoming friends. Slowly, carefully. The trial was set for June. The prosecutors were confident, said they had enough to put Tyrone away for life. I didn't know if that would be justice, didn't know if anything could really be justice for Jasmine. But I knew this: my daughter's name would live on, her love would continue, her legacy would be more than her death. I walked inside where the children were singing, where mothers were laughing, where hope lived in every corner. And I whispered to the walls, I kept my promise, baby girl. I kept my promise. The trial began on a Monday morning in June. The courthouse was packed, every seat filled. Reporters lined the walls. Camera crews set up outside because they weren't allowed in the courtroom. The whole city was watching. Half of Chicago thought I was a monster, the other half wasn't sure what to think. Tyrone walked in wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit. His lawyer had coached him well. He looked humble, wounded, like a man fighting for his life against impossible odds. I sat in the front row between Denise and Jamal, wore the same purple dress Jasmine had given me, the same felt hat. I wanted her with me in every way possible. The prosecutor was a woman named Angela Martinez, 38 years old, same age Jasmine would have been. She told me in our first meeting that she had a daughter, and this case made her physically sick. Mrs. Thompson, she'd said, I'm going to get him, I promise you. Judge Brennan called the court to order. The jury filed in, 12 people, 7 women, 5 men, mix of ages and races. They'd spent 3 days in jury selection. Now they'd decide if Tyrone Hayes was a murderer or a victim. Angela stood for opening statements. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about a man who saw his wife as a bank account. When that account was about to close, he decided to cash out in the most permanent way possible. Tyrone Hayes slowly poisoned Jasmine Hayes over a period of 4 months. He used peanut oil, knowing full well she had a deadly allergy. He watched her suffer, watched her go to the hospital. And when she figured out what he was doing, when she tried to leave, he made sure she never got the chance. She paused. Let it sink in. We will prove through medical records, forensic evidence, witness testimony, and Jasmine's own words from beyond the grave that Tyrone Hayes is guilty of first-degree murder. And we will prove he did it for the oldest reason in the world: money. Martin Cross stood for the defense, still smooth, still confident. Ladies and gentlemen, the prosecution wants you to believe a fairy tale, an evil husband, a saintly victim, a heroic mother-in-law. But the truth is far more complicated. Jasmine Hayes died from a tragic accident, an allergic reaction. It happens. The prosecution has no direct evidence of intentional poisoning. What they have is speculation, coincidence, and a grieving mother who cannot accept that sometimes terrible things just happen. The first week was medical testimony. Doctors explaining anaphylaxis, toxicologists talking about peanut proteins in Jasmine's system, emergency room records showing the pattern of her visits. The defense tried to argue it could have been cross-contamination, restaurant food, a friend's cooking, anything but Tyrone. But then Angela called Dr. Sarah Chen from Rush University Medical Center, the toxicologist who'd done the final autopsy. Dr. Chen, in your expert opinion, was this a case of accidental exposure? Dr. Chen looked right at the jury. No. The levels of peanut protein in Mrs. Hayes' system at time of death were consistent with direct, concentrated exposure, not trace amounts from cross-contamination. Someone gave her pure peanut oil, and given the timeline of her symptoms, I believe this exposure occurred multiple times over several months. Could she have accidentally ingested this herself? Highly unlikely. Mrs. Hayes had a documented severe allergy since childhood. She carried an EpiPen. She was meticulous about reading labels. People with allergies this severe don't just accidentally consume their allergen repeatedly. The jury was paying attention now. Really paying attention. Week 2, Angela called Keisha Walters. Keisha walked to the stand in a simple blue dress, hands shaking. She wouldn't look at Tyrone. Miss Walters, how do you know the defendant? We dated in college. Had an on and off relationship for years. In 2018, I had his daughter, Amara. Did Mr. Hayes tell you he was married when Amara was conceived? No. He said he was single. I found out about Jasmine when Amara was 3 years old. What did he tell you when you confronted him? He said he was leaving her. Said the marriage was over. Said he just needed time to handle it the right way. Did he ever leave her? No. Did he ever tell Jasmine about Amara? No. He said it would complicate things. That Jasmine would take everything in the divorce. Angela pulled up a bank record on the screen. Miss Walters, did Mr. Hayes give you money on October 20th, 2 weeks after Jasmine died? Yes, $5,000. Cash. He said it was back child support. Had he ever given you that much money before? No. Usually it was a few $100s here and there. This was different. Did he say where the money came from? Keisha's voice dropped to almost a whisper. He said his problems were solved. That he could finally take care of us properly. Martin Cross tried to discredit her. Called her a scorned woman. Suggested she was making things up to get back at Tyrone. But Keisha held firm, told the truth exactly as it happened. Then Jamal took the stand. He walked the jury through everything. The debt, the drug connections, the peanut oil receipt from Amazon ordered to the house 3 weeks before Jasmine died. Mr. Rivers, in your professional opinion as a former detective, does this evidence suggest premeditation? Absolutely. Mr. Hayes researched, purchased, and systematically administered a substance he knew would kill his wife. That's textbook premeditated murder. Martin Cross attacked hard, tried to paint Jamal as biased, as someone doing a favor for a friend. Mr. Rivers, isn't it true you were paid by Mrs. Thompson for this investigation? Yes. So you had a financial incentive to find evidence against my client? Jamal looked at him like he was stupid. I was paid to find the truth. The truth just happened to be that your client is a murderer. The courtroom gasped. Judge Brennan sustained the objection, but the damage was done. Week 3 was when everything changed. Angela saved the voice memo for last. Wanted it to be the final word before the prosecution rested. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to play a recording. This is a voice memo found on Jasmine Hayes' secondary phone, recorded on October 15th at 9:47 p.m. She died at approximately 10:15 p.m. the same night. Judge Brennan nodded. Proceed. The courtroom went silent. Then Jasmine's voice filled the air. Weak, struggling, but unmistakably clear. Mama, if you're hearing this, it means I'm gone. Tyrone's been poisoning me. I know it sounds crazy, but I know it. I found the peanut oil, hidden in the garage behind the paint cans. I confronted him yesterday. He denied everything, said I was paranoid. But Mama, I'm so sick. I can barely breathe. I think tonight might be the last time. I tried to call 911, but my phone died. I'm hiding this phone under the couch cushion. Mama, please, make sure Marcus knows I loved him. And please, Mama, there's a little girl, Tyrone's daughter in Gary. Her name is Amara. She's innocent. Don't let her suffer for his sins. I love you, Mama. I'm sorry I didn't listen. I'm so sorry. The recording ended. 3 jurors were crying. One had her hand over her mouth. The rest sat frozen. I was sobbing. Couldn't help it. Hearing my baby's last words in that courtroom with everyone listening, it broke something open inside me. Tyrone's face was stone. No emotion, nothing. Martin Cross objected. Tried to get the recording thrown out. argued it was hearsay, unreliable, prejudicial. Judge Brennan overruled every objection. "This is a dying declaration. It's admissible. The jury will hear it and give it whatever weight they deem appropriate." Angela rested the prosecution's case. The defense called character witnesses, people who said Tyrone was a good man, a good father, a devoted husband. But nobody could explain away that voice memo. Nobody could explain the peanut oil. Nobody could explain the debt and the sudden money and the pattern of Jasmine's hospital visits. Tyrone didn't testify. Martin Cross advised against it. Closing arguments came on a Friday. Martin Cross went first, tried to create reasonable doubt, tried to paint me as a controlling mother who never approved of Tyrone. Then Angela stood up. "Ladies and gentlemen, you heard Jasmine Hayes speak to you from her grave. You heard her name, her killer. You saw the evidence, the pattern, the motive, the opportunity. Tyrone Hayes murdered his wife for money. He thought he'd get away with it because he thought nobody would believe a broke church grandma over a grieving husband. He was wrong." The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, every single one of them looked at Tyrone. That's when I knew. Has the jury reached a verdict? "We have, Your Honor. On the charge of first-degree murder, how do you find?" "We find the defendant guilty." The courtroom exploded. Tyrone's mother screamed. Reporters rushed for their phones. I just sat there, feeling Jasmine's presence all around me. Guilty. He was guilty. The whole world knew it now. Judge Brennan sentenced him 3 weeks later. Life in prison without possibility of parole. As they led him away in handcuffs, Tyrone finally looked at me. "I loved her," he said. I stood up, walked right to the barrier. "No, baby. You loved what she could give you. There's a difference." They took him away, and for the first time in 8 months, I could breathe. 6 months after the trial ended, I stood in front of 4847 South King Drive on a bright Saturday morning in December. The brownstone looked different now. Fresh coat of paint, deep burgundy with cream trim, new windows that actually opened without sticking. The front steps rebuilt with the same kind of stone my husband Earl had picked out back in 1979. But the biggest change was the sign hanging above the door. Hand-carved wood, gold lettering, simple and clear. Jasmine's House of Grace. Free daycare, job training, safe haven. In loving memory of Jasmine Marie Hayes, I'd used money from the trust to renovate the whole place. 3 floors, each one with a purpose. Ground floor was the daycare. Bright colors, soft rugs, toys and books everywhere. Safe, warm. The kind of place Jasmine would have loved to bring Marcus when he was little. Second floor was job training and education. Computer lab, GED prep classes, resume workshops, interview coaching, small business mentorship. Third floor was emergency housing. 3 bedrooms for women fleeing dangerous situations, for single mothers with nowhere else to go, for anyone who needed a soft place to land while they figured out their next move. Denise walked up beside me, carrying a box of donated books for the daycare. "You ready for this, Ruby? Opening day is a big deal." I smiled. I've been ready since the day Jasmine died. This is what she would have wanted. The doors opened at 9 a.m. By 9:15, there were 12 children running around the daycare. Their mothers filled out paperwork in the job training center upstairs. One woman, couldn't have been more than 25, came up to me with tears in her eyes. "Mrs. Thompson, I just want to say thank you. I left my ex 3 days ago with my 2 babies and $50. I didn't know where to go. A woman at the shelter told me about this place. You saved my life." I hugged her tight. "Baby, you saved your own life. I'm just giving you a safe place to build it back up." By noon, the house was full of life. Children laughing, women talking, hope filling every corner of every room. Marcus came downstairs from his bedroom on the 3rd floor. He'd been living with me full-time since the trial, still healing, still processing everything, but getting better every day. "Grandma Ruby, there's a lady at the door asking for you." I walked to the front entrance. Keisha stood there holding Amara's hand. The little girl was wearing a pink coat and had her hair in two perfect puffs. "Hi, Ruby. I hope it's okay we stopped by. Amara wanted to see the house." "Of course it's okay. Come in, come in." Amara's eyes went wide as she looked around. At the children playing, at the murals on the walls painted by local artists, at the photos of Jasmine that I'd hung throughout the space. She stopped in front of one picture. Jasmine at 35, laughing at Marcus's birthday party. Full of life, full of light. "That's my stepmama, right?" Amara asked softly. "That's right, baby. That's Jasmine. She was beautiful, wasn't she?" "Yeah. She looks nice. Like she gave good hugs." My throat tightened. She gave the best hugs in the whole world. Amara turned to look at me. "Do you give good hugs too, Grandma Ruby?" I knelt down and opened my arms. She walked right into them without hesitation. And I held that child like I'd been waiting my whole life to hold her. Because in a way, I had been. Marcus came over, shy at first. He and Amara had met a few times since the trial, still figuring out how to be siblings, still learning to trust. "You want to see the playroom?" he asked quietly. Amara nodded. They walked off together, and I watched them go. Two children who'd lost so much. But maybe, just maybe, they'd found something too. Keisha wiped her eyes. "Ruby, I need to tell you something. I got a job. Real job. Social worker at a community center in Gary. I start next month." "That's wonderful, Keisha. And I'm going back to school, finishing my degree. I want Amara to see that it's never too late to change your life. She's lucky to have you." Keisha shook her head. "We're both lucky to have you. You could have hated us, could have blamed us, but you didn't. You just loved us instead." "That's what Jasmine would have done," I said simply. "So that's what I'm doing." That afternoon, Denise organized a small ceremony. Nothing fancy, just the people who'd been there from the beginning. Jamal brought his wife and their two daughters. Pastor Williams from Mount Olive Baptist Church came to bless the house. Some of the church sisters brought food. Way too much food. But that's what church sisters do. We gathered in the main room, and Pastor Williams said a prayer. "Lord, we dedicate this house to your service. We dedicate it to the memory of Jasmine Marie Hayes, who loved fiercely and lived fully. May this place be a refuge for the weary, a home for the homeless, a chance for those who thought they had no chances left. May Jasmine's spirit live on in every life that's touched by this place. In your name, amen." Everyone said amen. Then Denise asked me to speak. I stood in front of everyone, all these people who'd helped me fight, who'd believed me when half the city thought I was crazy. "I'm not good at speeches," I started. Never have been. "But I need to say something." I took a breath. When Tyrone kicked me out of this house, I thought I'd lost everything. My daughter, my home, my reason for getting up in the morning. But what I learned is that you can't lose what's already inside you. Jasmine is still with me, every day, every moment. And this house, this beautiful house that my husband built and my daughter loved, it's not mine anymore. It belongs to every woman who needs it, every child who plays here, every person who walks through that door looking for hope. I looked around at the faces watching me. Jasmine used to say that the strongest thing a woman can do is lift up another woman. So that's what we're doing here. We're lifting. We're building. We're making sure that no woman ever feels as alone as I felt that night in the rain. I pulled out a photo from my pocket. Old, worn. Jasmine at 7 years old, missing her 2 front teeth, grinning at the camera. "Baby girl, I kept my promise. Your house is full of love again, full of life again, and I'm going to make sure it stays that way as long as I'm breathing." The room was silent except for the sound of children playing upstairs. Then everyone started clapping. Not polite clapping, real clapping, the kind that comes from the soul. Jamal came over and hugged me. "You did good, Mrs. Thompson, real good." "We all did good," I corrected him. "Couldn't have done it without you." As the afternoon turned to evening, people started to leave. Hugs and promises to come back soon. offers to volunteer, donations of clothes and supplies. Finally, it was just me, Marcus, Denise, and Jamal sitting on the front porch. The south side stretched out before us, these streets we'd all grown up on, these blocks that held so many memories. "What's next for you, Ruby?" Denise asked. I thought about it, really thought about it. I'm going to keep going. Keep opening this house to anyone who needs it. Keep telling Jasmine's story so other women know they're not alone. Keep fighting for every single mother who's ever been told she's not enough. I looked at my friends. And I'm going to love my grandchildren. Both of them. Going to make sure they know their mother was a hero. That she fought until her last breath. That her love didn't die with her. Marcus leaned his head on my shoulder. I miss her, Grandma. I know, baby. I miss her too. Every single day. Do you think she knows about the house? About what you did? I looked up at the sky. Winter stars starting to appear. Yeah, Marcus. I think she knows, and I think she's proud. We sat there as the streetlights came on, as the city hummed around us, as life continued forward. Because that's what you do. You keep living, you keep loving, you keep fighting. For the ones you lost, for the ones still here, for the ones coming after. That's what Jasmine would have done. So that's what I'm doing. 1 year after Jasmine's House of Grace opened its doors, I woke up to sunlight streaming through the windows of my bedroom on the 3rd floor. It was a Saturday morning in late spring, the kind of morning Jasmine used to love, warm enough to sit on the porch with coffee, cool enough to still need a sweater. I could hear children's voices downstairs. The daycare didn't open on weekends, but Marcus and Amara were already awake, probably making a mess in the kitchen trying to surprise me with breakfast. I smiled. Let them make their mess. That's what this house was for now. Love, laughter, life. I got dressed slowly. Put on my favorite purple dress, the one Jasmine bought me for my 63rd birthday, pinned on the brooch Earl gave me on our wedding day, looked at myself in the mirror. Gray hair, wrinkles around my eyes, hands that had worked hard for 65 years. But I was still standing, still fighting, still here. I walked downstairs to find exactly what I expected. Pancake batter on the counter, eggshells on the floor, Marcus and Amara covered in flour, grinning like they'd accomplished something great. "Surprise, Grandma Ruby?" they shouted together. "Oh, this is definitely a surprise," I said, trying not to laugh. "What are we celebrating?" Marcus looked at Amara. Amara looked back at him. Some kind of silent sibling communication I was still learning to read. "We wanted to do something special," Marcus said. "Because today is 1 year since Mom died. And we thought maybe you'd be sad." My chest tightened. These children, these beautiful, thoughtful children. "So we wanted to make you happy," Amara added. "Like you make everybody else happy." I pulled them both into a hug. Flour and all. "You know what makes me happy? Having you both here. Safe. Loved. Together." We ate those lumpy pancakes at the kitchen table. The same table where Jasmine and I used to sit and talk about everything. Where Earl used to read the newspaper every morning. Where so much of our family's history had unfolded. After breakfast, Marcus went upstairs to finish his homework. Amara stayed with me, helping clean up the kitchen disaster. "Grandma Ruby?" she asked quietly, scrubbing a plate. "Do you think my daddy thinks about me?" I stopped, put down the dish towel, knelt down to her eye level. "Baby, your daddy made terrible choices. Choices that hurt a lot of people. But I believe somewhere in his heart he loves you. He just loved the wrong things more. Money, power, himself. Does that make me bad? Because I came from him?" "Oh, sweetheart, no, listen to me. You are not your father's choices. You are your own person. You're smart, you're kind, you're brave. You're exactly who God meant you to be." She thought about that for a minute. "Miss Keisha says the same thing. But sometimes I worry that I'll be like him when I grow up." I held her face in my hands. "You want to know how I know you won't be like him? Because you worry about it. Bad people don't worry about being bad. They just are. You, baby girl, you have a good heart. And we're going to protect that heart, Me, Marcus, Keisha, everyone who loves you, we're going to make sure you grow up knowing you're worthy of good things." She hugged me tight. "I love you, Grandma Ruby. I love you too, baby. More than you'll ever know." That afternoon, Denise came by with a folder of paperwork. We sat on the front porch, the same porch where Tyrone had stood holding that forged will, the same porch where I'd walked away in the rain. "Ruby, I have good news and complicated news. Which do you want first?" "Give me the good news. I could use some good news." Jasmine's house has served 147 families in the past year. 63 women have completed job training programs. 41 have found full-time employment. 15 have moved into stable housing. And 89 children have been in our daycare program. I felt tears prick my eyes. Jasmine would be so proud. She would. And that brings me to the complicated news. We're getting more applications than we can handle. We need to expand, either find a bigger space or open a second location. I looked out at the street, at the neighborhood I'd known my whole life. What does the trust fund look like? Denise flipped through papers. Still healthy. After the renovations and operating costs for the year, we're sitting at about $16 million. The properties are still generating rental income. We're financially stable. Then let's expand. Find another building. Maybe in Englewood or Austin. Somewhere that needs it just as much as Bronzeville. Denise smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that. I already have 3 properties in mind." We spent the next hour going through options, discussing budgets, planning futures. This was Earl's legacy. And now it was Jasmine's too. And someday it would be Marcus and Amara's. Generational wealth wasn't just about money. It was about impact, about changing lives, about making sure the next generation had it better than the last. That evening I drove to Oakwood Cemetery, brought fresh flowers, white lilies, Jasmine's favorite. I sat on the grass next to her headstone, simple, elegant, just how she would have wanted it. Jasmine Marie Thompson Hayes, beloved daughter, mother, and healer, 1987 to 2025. "Hey, baby girl," I said softly. "It's been a year. Can you believe it? Feels like yesterday and a lifetime ago all at once." The wind rustled through the trees. I like to think that was her way of answering. "Marcus is doing good, real good. He's in therapy, talking about his feelings, making friends at school. He still misses you every single day, but he's learning to carry that missing without letting it break him." I pulled a weed from around the headstone. "And Amara. Oh, Jasmine, you would love her so much. She looks just like you did at that age. Same eyes, same smile, same big heart. She asks about you all the time, wants to know everything. What you liked, what you dreamed about, how you laughed." My voice broke. "I tell her stories, every night before bed. Stories about you as a little girl, about you as a teenager, about the woman you became. I want her to know you, even though you never got to meet." I wiped my eyes. "The house is full, baby. Full of children and laughter and hope, just like you would have wanted. We've helped so many mothers, so many babies, and we're going to keep helping. As long as I'm breathing, we're going to keep your name alive." I stood up slowly. My knees aren't what they used to be. "I love you, Jasmine, every single day, and I'm sorry I couldn't save you, but I promise I'm saving everyone I can in your honor." I kissed my fingers and touched her headstone. Then I walked back to my car and drove home. Home to the brownstone that almost destroyed me, but instead became my purpose. Home to the children who needed me as much as I needed them. Home to the legacy we were building together. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat in the living room with a cup of tea. The house was quiet except for the old pipes creaking and the sound of the city outside. I thought about everything that had happened, everything I'd lost, everything I'd gained. Tyrone was in Stateville Correctional Center serving life without parole. I'd heard through Jamal that he'd aged 10 years in 12 months. That prison wasn't kind to men who hurt women and children. I didn't take pleasure in his suffering. But I didn't cry about it either. He made his choices. Now he was living with the consequences. I thought about Jasmine, about her voice on that recording, about her strength even in her final moments. She tried to protect everyone, even the daughter her husband had hidden from her. Even in death, she was thinking about others. That's the kind of mother she was. That's the kind of woman I raised. And that's the kind of legacy I was going to make sure never died. My phone buzzed. A text from Keisha. Just wanted to say thank you. For everything. For loving Amara. For not hating me. For being the grandmother she deserves. You changed our lives, Ruby. I texted back. You're family now. That's what family does. 3 dots appeared. Then, Jasmine would be proud of you. I stared at those words for a long time. Would she be proud? I hoped so. God, I hoped so. I was doing my best, fighting my hardest, loving as much as I could. What else could a mother do? I finished my tea, turned off the lights, headed upstairs. Stopped at Marcus's room first. He was asleep, clutching the teddy bear Jasmine had given him when he was 3. I kissed his forehead. Sweet dreams, baby. Then Amara's room. She'd kicked off her covers like always. I pulled them back up, tucked her in. She stirred. Grandma? I'm here, baby. Go back to sleep. Will you always be here? As long as God lets me. I promise. She smiled in her sleep and rolled over. I stood there for a moment, watching her breathe, watching her dream. This little girl who'd been hidden, who'd been a secret, who'd been caught in the middle of something she didn't understand. She was home now. She was loved now. She was safe now. And I would make sure she stayed that way. I walked to my own bedroom, got ready for bed, laid down in the darkness, and for the first time in a year, I slept without nightmares. Because I'd kept my promise. I'd fought back. I'd won. I'd built something beautiful from the ashes of tragedy. And tomorrow, I'd wake up and do it all again. For Jasmine. For Marcus. For Amara. For every woman who'd ever been told she wasn't strong enough. This was my life now. My purpose. My calling. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. The house settled around me. These walls that had seen so much pain and so much love, and I whispered into the darkness one more time. Thank you, Jasmine, for making me a mother, for teaching me strength, for trusting me to finish what you started. I love you, baby girl, now and always. Rest easy. Mama's got it from here.